During decades of research into the mysteries of human consciousness, I have come to understand something extraordinary that forever changed my relationship with reality. There exists a specific way of asking, of communicating with the universe, that makes it practically impossible for our requests to be denied. This isn't about superficial manifestation techniques or naive positive thinking. It is something much deeper, more ancient, and more powerful. My name is Jacobo Grinberg, and what I am about to share with you comes from years of work in laboratories studying the brainwaves of shamans, from my development of the syntropic theory, and from personal experiences that led me to understand that the relationship between human consciousness and the universal quantum field is much more intimate than I ever imagined. The secret is not in what you ask for, but in how you ask for it. It is not in the words you use, but in the state of consciousness from which your request emerges. I have discovered that when we learn to align ourselves with the deepest frequencies of existence, our intentions become irresistible to the universe. Let me begin by telling you about an experience that completely changed my understanding of how conscious petition works. Years ago, while working with Don Pachita, that extraordinary healer who possessed abilities that defied all scientific logic, I witnessed something that left me speechless. A woman had arrived with her young son, who was suffering from an illness that doctors had declared incurable. Don Pachita sat in front of the child, closed her eyes, and began to speak. But she wasn't speaking to us. She was addressing the universe directly, that cosmic intelligence that permeates all existence. Her words were not desperate pleas or prayers laden with fear. It was a conversation, an intimate dialogue with the forces that govern reality. What struck me was not just that the boy was completely cured in the following days, but the way Don Pachita had formulated her request. She hadn't asked for the boy to be healed. She had given thanks for the healing that was already occurring on a deeper level of reality. She had spoken as if the healing were an accomplished fact in the subtle dimensions, waiting only to manifest on the physical plane. I invite you, as we explore these mysteries together, to subscribe to the channel and share in the comments what you are feeling right now, because that feeling you are experiencing is already a response from the universe to your openness. Give it a like if you feel that something inside you is awakening to this understanding. This experience led me to investigate more deeply what I call the syntax of the universe. I discovered that there is a specific language that human consciousness can use to communicate directly with the quantum field, a way of formulating intentions that resonates perfectly with the deepest laws of reality. In my research with the syntropic theory, I have found that the universe operates like a vast, interconnected network of information. Every thought, every emotion, every intention sends waves through this network. But not all waves are the same. Some propagate weakly and dissipate quickly. Others travel with such force and clarity that they transform everything in their path. The difference lies in what I call syntropic coherence. When our consciousness reaches certain states of internal unification, when we manage to synchronize our different levels of being, our intentions acquire an extraordinary power. It's like the difference between an ordinary light and a laser. Both are light, but the laser concentrates all its energy into a specific frequency, becoming capable of passing through materials that scattered light cannot even touch. I have documented in my laboratories that when a person enters deep states of coherence, their brainwaves show specific patterns of synchronization. Theta and delta frequencies harmonize in a way that creates what we could call a quantum window, a moment of maximum receptivity between individual consciousness and the universal field. But here comes the crucial part. It is not enough to reach these states. What will make the difference is how you formulate your request from these deep levels of consciousness. And this is where what I have come to understand as the fundamental principles of the irresistible petition come in. The first principle is what I call petition from gratitude. Instead of asking from a place of lack, from desperate need, we ask from the recognition that we have already received. This is not self-deception or magical thinking. It is a profound understanding of how time operates in the more subtle dimensions of reality. At the quantum level, all possibilities exist simultaneously. Past, present, and future are constructs of our linear perception, but in the dimensions where expanded consciousness operates, everything is happening now. When we ask from gratitude, we align ourselves with that reality where what we need already exists, has already been granted. is already a part of our being. During my studies with advanced meditators, I have observed that those who achieve the most extraordinary results in manifesting their intentions share this characteristic. They never ask from desperation or anxiety. Their requests arise from a state of deep trust, as if they were simply reminding the universe of something that had already been agreed upon on a deeper level. The second principle is vibrational specificity. It's not about being specific in the external details, but in the energetic quality of what we wish to experience. I have learned that the universe responds more to emotional frequencies than to mental descriptions. When we ask for health, for example, it is more effective to internally generate the feeling of complete vitality than to list all the symptoms we want to disappear. This leads me to something fascinating that I discovered during my research. The universe has a natural tendency towards harmony, towards the resolution of imbalances. When our requests align with this natural tendency, when we ask for things that contribute to the greater balance and harmony, we find extraordinary receptivity. I have worked with people who have achieved manifestations that seemed impossible simply because they learned to formulate their requests in terms of contributing to the greater good. Instead of asking for personal abundance, they ask for the ability to serve more effectively. Instead of asking for power, they ask for the wisdom to use whatever power they receive for the benefit of all beings. The third principle is what I call active detachment. This is perhaps the most difficult thing for the Western mind to understand, accustomed as it is to struggle and effort. Active detachment means formulating the request with total clarity and intention, but immediately afterward, letting it go completely, trusting that the universe knows better than we do how and when to manifest what we have asked for. During my years of research, I have seen time and again that the most powerful manifestations occur when the person achieves this perfect balance between clear intention and total surrender. It's like planting a seed. You plant it with care and attention, but then you trust that the earth, the water, and the sun will do their work. If you were to dig up the seed every day to check if it's growing, you would kill it. I remember a particularly striking case of a man who had lost his job and was on the verge of losing his house. He came to consult me after having tried all the manifestation techniques he knew without any results. I taught him these principles, and instead of desperately asking for a specific job, he began to give thanks for the perfect opportunity that was already coming his way, to feel the emotion of contributing his unique talents to the world, and then to completely release the outcome. In less than a week, he received 3 different job offers, one of which not only solved his financial situation, but also opened up a professional path he had not even imagined possible. What was most remarkable is that this opportunity arose from a completely unexpected connection in a way that his planning mind could never have foreseen. This leads me to the fourth principle, multidimensional receptivity. When we ask the universe, we must be open to the answer arriving from any direction, in any form, at any time. The universe has infinite resources and pathways that our limited minds cannot imagine. When we cling to specific ideas about how our request should manifest, we severely limit the possibilities for a response. In my research with the syntropic theory, I have documented that consciousness operates simultaneously in multiple dimensions. When we make a request from an expanded state of consciousness, that request propagates through all levels of reality simultaneously, but the answers can come from any of these levels, often in ways that defy our linear expectations. I have learned that the universe is infinitely creative in its responses. Sometimes what we ask for arrives exactly as we expected. Other times, it comes in such an unexpected and perfect way that we realize the universe understood our deepest need better than we did ourselves. The fifth principle is integral coherence. For a request to be truly irresistible, it must be aligned not only with our conscious desires, but with all aspects of our being. If we consciously ask for abundance, but unconsciously believe we don't deserve it, we create a field of interference that blocks the manifestation. During years of therapeutic work in consciousness research, I have seen that most unmanifested requests are blocked by internal conflicts. Part of us wants one thing, while another part fears or rejects it. It's like having the brake on while stepping on the accelerator. That is why, before formulating any important request, It is crucial to do internal integration work. We need to identify and heal the parts of ourselves that might be resisting what we consciously desire. This requires brutal honesty with oneself and often the guidance of someone who can help us see our blind spots. I have developed specific techniques based on my neuroscientific findings to achieve this integral coherence. They involve systematically working with different levels of consciousness until they are all aligned in the same direction. When this is achieved, the power of the request is multiplied exponentially. The sixth principle is what I call cosmic timing. There is a natural rhythm in the universe, cycles of expansion and contraction, times for planting and times for harvesting. When we learn to synchronize our requests with these natural rhythms, we find extraordinary receptivity. This doesn't mean we have to wait for perfect circumstances to ask. It means developing the sensitivity to perceive when the universal currents are flowing in the direction of our intentions. It's like learning to navigate. You can row against the current and eventually reach your destination. But when you learn to use the currents to your advantage, the journey becomes infinitely easier and more effective. During my studies with shamans, I learned that they possess this sensitivity naturally. They can perceive the fluctuations in what they call the web of the world, the moments where reality is more malleable, where intentions encounter less resistance to manifest. I have documented that certain states of consciousness, particularly those associated with theta brainwaves, significantly increase our ability to perceive these cosmic rhythms. It's like developing a new sense, an internal antenna that allows us to tune into the more subtle frequencies of reality. The seventh principle is the sacred offering. The most powerful requests are not demands, but offerings. Instead of saying, "Give me this," we say, "I am available to receive this if it serves the highest purpose." This subtle yet profound shift completely transforms the nature of our relationship with the universe. When we ask from a place of sacred offering, we become conscious co-creators instead of desperate beggars. We recognize that we are an integral part of the universe, not separate entities begging for favors from an external force. This understanding activates what I call the principle of cosmic reciprocity. The universe becomes as generous with us as we are willing to be generous with it. I have seen extraordinary transformations in people who adopted this perspective. Their relationship with abundance, with opportunities, with relationships, changed radically. Instead of chasing what they wanted, they began to attract it naturally by becoming the kind of person who resonated with those experiences. This leads me to something fundamental that I have learned. The universe does not give us what we ask for. It gives us what we are. Our state of being is our most powerful request, much more so than any words we can utter. When we transform our being, we automatically transform what we receive from the universe. During my research, I have documented that people who achieve consistent and lasting manifestations share a certain quality of presence. They emanate a specific frequency of trust, gratitude, and openness that acts as a magnet for the experiences they desire. They have learned to be the answer to their own prayers. The eighth principle is the petition in the present continuous. Instead of asking for something we want in the future, we ask from the experience of already receiving it. This is not pretending or fantasizing, but tuning into the level of reality where what we desire already exists and is flowing towards us. In my studies of altered states of consciousness, I have found that at certain levels of expanded perception, we can directly access possible future versions of ourselves. From this perspective, we can ask not as someone who lacks something, but as someone who is already experiencing it and is simply allowing it to manifest in linear time. This expanded temporal perspective is one of the most notable characteristics of the great manifestors I have studied. They have developed the ability to experience the future as present, which creates an irresistible magnetic resonance between their current state and the reality they wish to experience. I have worked with specific meditation and visualization techniques that allow access to these states of expanded temporal consciousness. When people learn to ask from this perspective, the results are often dramatically faster and more effective than when they ask from ordinary temporal limitation. The ninth principle is what I call the holistic petition. Instead of asking for isolated things, we ask for the complete transformation of our life experience in the direction we desire. This allows the universe to respond in much more integrated and satisfying ways. For example, instead of simply asking for more money, we ask for a life of abundance on all levels, financial abundance, but also an abundance of love, health, creativity, purpose, and contribution. This allows the universe to orchestrate changes in multiple areas of our lives that reinforce each other. I have observed that when people adopt this holistic approach, they often receive much more than they had specifically asked for. It's as if the universe says, "Since we are transforming your life, let's do it completely." The changes tend to be deeper, more lasting, and more satisfying. The 10th and final principle is the petition from service. The most irresistible requests are those that will clearly benefit not only the one making them, but the wider web of life. When we ask from a motivation of genuine service, we access universal forces that transcend individual limitations. During my years of research, I have documented that the most extraordinary manifestations occur when the person has transcended the personal ego and is asking from a place of genuine love for life. It is as if the universe has special resources reserved for those who are willing to be channels of benefit for others. This does not mean that we have to be martyrs or deny our personal needs. It means recognizing that our personal well-being and the well-being of the whole are inseparable, and that when we ask from this understanding, we activate infinitely more powerful forces of support. I have worked with spiritual leaders, healers, and visionaries who have developed this ability to ask from service, and the results are consistently extraordinary. They seem to have access to resources, opportunities, and synchronicities that are beyond what any personal effort could generate. But let me be very clear about something important. These principles are not magic formulas that work automatically without personal development. They require deep work of self-knowledge, emotional purification, and expansion of consciousness. They are powerful tools, but like all powerful tools, they require skill and wisdom to be used effectively. During my research, I have seen people who tried to apply these principles superficially and became frustrated when they did not get immediate results. The development of the ability to ask irresistibly is a path of spiritual growth, not a trick to obtain instant gratification. It requires developing qualities like patience, trust, humility, and above all, the capacity to genuinely love. These qualities are not just nice spiritual ideals. They are literally the frequencies that allow our requests to resonate with the deepest dimensions of reality. It is also crucial to understand that not all our requests will be granted exactly as we formulate them. And this is actually a blessing. The universe has an infinitely broader perspective than ours. Sometimes what we think we need is not what will truly serve us in the long run. I have learned to trust in universal wisdom, even when I don't immediately understand why certain requests do not manifest as I expected. Invariably, with time, I can see that the universe had a deeper understanding of what I really needed for my growth and happiness. This leads me to something profound that I have understood. The true mastery in the art of asking does not consist in always getting what we want, but in always wanting what we receive. When we develop this perspective, every experience becomes a perfect answer to a request that we may not have consciously known we had made. In my later years of research, I have come to see that all existence is a continuous dialogue between individual consciousness and universal consciousness. Every moment is an implicit request. Every experience is a response. When we understand this, all of life becomes a sacred conversation with the infinite mystery. The invitation I extend to you is to begin experimenting with these principles in your own life. Start with small requests. Observe the results. Adjust your approach based on what you learn. Gradually develop the sensitivity to perceive how the universe is responding to your different ways of asking. Remember that each person will have their own unique way of applying these principles. Your relationship with the universe is as individual as your fingerprint. What works for one person may need to be adapted for another. Trust your direct experience more than any external teaching, including mine. But above all, remember that the ultimate goal is not to become someone who always gets what they want, but someone who wants what life is offering in every moment. When you reach this state of total alignment with the flow of existence, you discover that the universe never says no to you, because your will and the universal will have become one. The deepest truth that I can share with you is this. You are not separate from the universe, asking for favors from an external force. You are a localized expression of the universal consciousness, exploring its own infinite possibilities. When you ask from this understanding, there is no way the universe can say no to you, because it would be saying no to itself. The universe is waiting to hear your authentic voice, your true request, the one that arises from the depths of your most genuine being. When you learn to ask from that place, you discover that you have had the power all along. You were just waiting to remember how to use it.